The park was nearly empty that late afternoon, the kind of quiet that made every sound feel louder than it should. A man in a dark coat sat alone on a bench, shoulders slightly hunched, eyes fixed on the ground as if something precious had fallen there and shattered. The city moved around him, unaware. Cars whispered past. Leaves scraped the pavement. And then, small sneakers stopped in front of him. He didn't look up at first, but a soft voice broke through the silence. "Mister, are you crying? Before we go any further, let me ask you something gently. Where are you listening to this story from right now? A living room, a bus seat, a quiet bedroom late at night? Leave your place in the comments." It's incredible how one moment of kindness can travel across the world. The man finally lifted his head. His name was Ethan Carter, though few people ever use it anymore. Most called him Mr. Carter or Sir or CEO. He ran a tech company worth billions, made decisions that moved markets, signed papers that changed lives. But none of that mattered here. Not on this bench. Not with tears caught in his lashes. Standing in front of him was a little girl, no older than 6. She wore a yellow jacket too big for her arms and held a paper bag with a crayon sun drawn on it. Her brown hair was tied into uneven pigtails and her eyes, wide, curious, unafraid, searched his face with pure concern. I'm fine," Ethan said quickly, brushing his cheek with the back of his hand. The lie sounded weak even to him. The girl tilted her head. Grown-ups say that when they're not fine. Behind her, a man stood a few steps away, watching. He had kind eyes and tired shoulders, the look of someone who worked hard but never complained. This was Michael, the girl's father. He gave Ethan an apologetic smile, ready to call his daughter back. "I'm Lily," the girl said before anyone could stop her. "You look lonely." Lonely. The word landed harder than any insult ever had. Ethan swallowed. "Sometimes, I guess I am." Lily considered this carefully, then brightened as if she'd solved a very serious problem. She stepped closer and held up the paper bag. "Don't cry, sir. You can borrow my dad." The world seemed to pause. Michael froze. "Lily." "It's okay," Ethan said softly, though his chest felt like it was caving in. He let out a small, broken laugh. "Borrow your dad?" She nodded seriously. "He's really good at fixing sad. He makes pancakes shaped like stars. And he listens. You can have him for a little while." Michael's face flushed, embarrassed and touched at the same time. "I'm sorry," he said to Ethan. She just likes to help." Ethan stood slowly, towering over them, yet feeling smaller than he had in years. He looked at Michael, at the lines around his eyes, the worn jacket, the quiet strength. This man had something Ethan had lost long ago. "That's incredibly generous," Ethan said to Lily. He crouched slightly so they were closer to eye level. "Thank you." She smiled, satisfied. "See? You're already better." Ethan didn't know why, but something cracked open then. Maybe it was the honesty. Maybe it was the innocence. Or maybe it was a memory of a time when someone had once said something kind to him too, before life hardened him. Michael cleared his throat. "We usually sit over there," he said, pointing to a nearby bench. If you want company." Ethan hesitated. Meetings waited. Emails piled up. His driver was probably circling the block. But none of that felt important. "I'd like that," Ethan said. They sat together as the sun dipped lower, painting the park in gold. Lily talked about school, about her missing tooth, about how her mom used to sit with him before she went to the stars. Michael listened quietly, pain flickering behind his calm. Ethan listened too, and for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel completely alone. If you had been there on that bench, watching a stranger come for another with nothing but honesty, what would you have done? Would you have stepped closer or walked past in silence? Tell me in the comments. And if this moment touched you even a little, tap like to show that kindness still has a place in this world. The light began to fade, and with it came stories that were heavier than they looked on the surface. Ethan didn't yet realize that this small meeting, this borrowed father, this brave little girl, was about to force him to face a past he had buried deep and a truth he never expected to uncover. The sky dimmed into a soft gray blue as the first street lights flickered on. Ethan hadn't noticed how long they'd been sitting together until Lily yawned and leaned against her father's arm. The park was cooler now, the kind of chill that crept in quietly, settling into bones. Ethan pulled his coat tighter, but inside, something warm was beginning to stir. Unfamiliar, unsettling. "You don't talk much," Lily said suddenly, peering up at him. Ethan smiled faintly. "I talk all day," he replied. "Just not about things that matter." Michael glanced at him. Curiosity gentle rather than intrusive. "That sounds exhausting." "It is," Ethan admitted. The words slipped out before he could stop it. Silence followed, but it wasn't awkward. It felt earned, like a pause in music before the next note. Lily swung her legs, humming to herself, while Michael watched her with quiet devotion. Ethan noticed how his hand rested protectively on her shoulder, as if the world might snatch her away if he looked elsewhere for even a second. "My wife used to bring Lily here," Michael said, voice low, "before she got sick." Lily didn't stop humming, but her fingers curled into her jacket. Ethan's chest tightened. "I'm sorry," Ethan said. Michael nodded. "It's been 2 years. Some days feel lighter. Others," he exhaled slowly, "you learn to carry it." Ethan stared out the path ahead, where couples passed hand in hand, laughter echoing faintly. "I don't think I ever learned how," he said. Michael turned to him. "Carry what?" Ethan hesitated. He wasn't used to this. Strangers, vulnerability, words without contracts. "Regret," he said finally. "Loss. The kind you don't talk about, because people assume money fixes everything." Michael studied him more closely now, as if seeing past a tailored coat and polished shoes. "It doesn't." Ethan laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. "It just makes the silence bigger." A memory surfaced uninvited. A small apartment, arguments sharp as glass, a woman standing by the door with a suitcase and eyes full of disappointment. Grace. He hadn't said her name out loud in years. "She left," Ethan said quietly. "My wife said she didn't recognize me anymore. Said I loved my company more than I loved her." Michael didn't interrupt. "I told her it was just a phase," Ethan continued. "That once things settled, we'd be fine. But things never settled. They just grew." The park lights buzz overhead. "And now?" Michael asked gently. Ethan swallowed. "Now she's gone. And I sit on benches wondering when I became someone a little girl feels sorry for." Lily looked up then. "I don't feel sorry," she said. "I just didn't want you to be sad alone." The simplicity of it broke him. "Have you ever had someone help you when no one else would? Not because they had to, but because they chose to? If yes, write yes in the comments and tell me who they were." Gratitude has a way of finding its way back home. Ethan stood abruptly, turning away as emotion surged too fast, too strong. He pressed his fingers to his eyes, breathing hard. No boardroom had ever prepared him for this kind of exposure. Michael rose as well, placing Lily's bag over his shoulder. "We should get going," he said gently, giving Ethan space without abandoning him. "Dinner waits for us." Lily hugged Ethan without asking. Her arms barely reached around his waist, but the contact stunned him. He froze, then slowly rested a hand on her back. "You don't have to be lonely forever," she whispered, as if sharing a secret. When she pulled away, she waved cheerfully, already skipping ahead. Michael lingered a moment. "Listen," he said, hesitant. "We come here most evenings. If you ever want to talk again." Ethan nodded. "I'd like that." They left, their figures shrinking down the path until they blended into the evening crowd. Ethan remained standing, the bench suddenly empty, the air echoing with Lily's voice. For the first time in years, he didn't rush back to work. He walked instead, slowly, letting memories surface, of the man he used to be, of the choices he made, of the people he lost. And somewhere deep inside, a question began to form, one that would not let him sleep that night, and would soon demand answers he wasn't sure he was ready to face. That night, Ethan's penthouse felt colder than usual. The glass walls reflected the city lights like distant stars, beautiful and unreachable. He stood by the window long after his suit jacket lay forgotten on a chair, replaying Lily's words over and over. "You don't have to be lonely forever," Sleep came late and thin. When it did, it dragged memories with it. He saw Grace again, younger, sitting cross-legged on the floor of their first apartment, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes. She had laughed then, dust on her nose, hope in her eyes. "We'll build something real here," she'd said, back when real meant dinners together and shared dreams, not quarterly profits and endless flights. The alarm cut through the dream before dawn. Ethan woke with his heart racing. At the office, everything moved like clockwork. Assistant spoke. Screens flashed, numbers climbed. But Ethan felt like he was watching his life through thick glass. During a board meeting, his mind drifted back to the park, to a man with tired shoulders and a little girl who offered a father like a gift. At lunch, without thinking too much, Ethan asked his driver to stop by the park. It was earlier than usual, quieter. The benches were empty at first. He sat where he had the evening before, half expecting the moment to vanish like a dream. But then he saw them. Lily chasing pigeons, Michael calling after her with mock sternness. Something in Ethan loosened. "You came back," Lily said, as if she'd known he would. "I did," Ethan replied. "I thought I might borrow your dad again." Michael laughed, surprised. "I guess I'm in high demand." They sat. Talk came easier this time. Michael spoke about his job as a school counselor, about how hard it was to help kids process pain when he was still learning himself. Ethan listened, truly listened, in a way he hadn't listened to anyone in years. "What do you do?" Lily asked, chewing on a granola bar. "I run a company," Ethan said. "Is it fun?" He hesitated. "It used to be." Michael studied him. "You don't sound like someone who enjoys what he's built." Ethan looked down at his hands. "I don't know how to enjoy anything anymore, without measuring its worth." Michael nodded slowly. "That's a heavy way to live." They talk about small things, favorite movies, worst mistakes, silly childhood memories. Ethan laughed more in that hour than he had in months. And somewhere in the middle of it, a thought struck him with unexpected force. "When was the last time I did something kind without a reason? If this story has made you pause for even a second, let me ask you something important. What's one small good thing you've done recently? Something no one paid you for, something quiet. Share it in the comments. Your moment might remind someone else that kindness still exists, even on hard days." The days that followed, Ethan kept returning. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they sat in comfortable silence. Other times Lily dragged him into games that made Ethan forget his age, his title, his carefully constructed distance from joy. But with closeness came questions, ones Ethan had avoided for years. One afternoon, while Lily was busy drawing with sidewalk chalk, Ethan turned to Michael. "Can I ask you something personal?" Michael nodded. "How do you keep going?" Ethan asked. "After losing someone who was your whole world?" Michael didn't answer right away. He watched Lily, her laughter echoing through the park. "I didn't at first," he said finally. "I broke. Completely. But then I realized Lily was watching me learn how to live again. I didn't want to think love only leads to endings." Ethan felt the words sink deep. That evening, alone again, Ethan found himself standing outside a modest apartment building he hadn't visited in years. Grace's old address. He hadn't known why he came until he was there. His hand hovered near the intercom, heart pounding. He didn't press it. Instead, he left. But the door inside him had already cracked open. Weeks passed. Ethan began making changes, small ones at first, leaving work earlier, turning his phone off at dinner, asking questions and waiting for answers. People noticed. Rumors spread. The CEO was different. One evening in the park, Lily handed Ethan a drawing. It showed 3 stick figures on a bench under a bright yellow sun. "That's us," she said proudly. "You don't look sad anymore." Ethan smiled, but his chest tightened. Because beneath the warmth, something else was growing. A realization that the past he'd run from was catching up to him. And that a truth about Grace, about loss, about responsibility was closer than he ever imagined. The park lights flickered on again as the sun slipped away, and Ethan felt it. The calm before something much bigger than comfort. The call came on a Tuesday morning, quiet and unassuming, slipping into Ethan's day like it belonged there. Mr. Carter, his assistant said carefully, there's a woman online too. She says it's important. Her name is Ava Reynolds. The name meant nothing at first. Ethan almost told her to take a message, but something in her tone, cautious, unsure, made him pause. Put her through. There was a breath on the other end. Then Ethan, I'm sorry to call like this. I didn't know where else to turn. Her voice trembled. Young, nervous. Not Grace, but close enough to make his stomach tighten. How do you know me? Ethan asked. I didn't, Ava said. Not until recently. I found your name in some old documents. My mother kept them. She passed away last year. Ethan leaned back in his chair. The city hummed beyond the glass, unaware that something delicate was unfolding. Your mother's name? He asked. There was a pause. Grace Carter. She was my mom. The world tilted. Ethan's breath caught so sharply it hurt. That's not possible, he said, though his voice lacked conviction. She never told me who my father was. Ava continued, rushing now, words spilling as if she feared he'd hang up. But after she died, I found letters, emails, photos, and a birth certificate draft. Your name was there, crossed out. Silence swallowed the line. Grace had been pregnant. When she left, he'd never known. I'm not asking for anything, Ava said quickly, tears audible now. I just needed to know, to hear your voice, to understand where I come from. Ethan closed his eyes. Images crashed into him. Grace standing in the doorway, hand resting unconsciously on her stomach. Her eyes tired, resigned. Him too busy, too distant, too sure there'd be time later. There hadn't been. I didn't know, he whispered. I swear, I didn't know. I believe you, Ava said softly. She never wanted to burden you. She said you were already carrying too much. After the call ended, Ethan sat unmoving, hands shaking. The weight of years pressed down all at once, regret sharpening into something unbearable. That evening, he went to the park like a man pulled by instinct rather than choice. Michael was there, Lily perched beside him, swinging her legs. Lily spotted Ethan first and waved enthusiastically. He forced a smile and sat, but Michael noticed immediately. You look like you've seen a ghost, Michael said gently. Ethan stared at the ground. I have a daughter, he said. Or, I think I do. Michael's expression shifted. Surprise, then concern. You just found out? Ethan nodded. She's grown. I missed everything. Lily listened quietly, her small face serious. She slid her hand into Ethan's without a word. I don't know how to fix this, Ethan continued, voice breaking. I don't know if I even deserve to try. Michael exhaled slowly. You can't rewrite the past, he said, but you can choose who you are from here. Ethan looked at Lily, at the child who'd shown him kindness without knowing a thing about him. What if it's too late? Lily squeezed his hand. It's only too late when you stop caring. The simplicity struck again, like truth often did when wrapped in innocence. That night, Ethan sent Ava a message. Just a few lines. If you're willing, I'd like to meet. No pressure. Only when you're ready. The reply came an hour later. I like that. The meeting happened days later in a quiet cafe. Ava had Grace's eyes. The same thoughtful pause before speaking. When she smiled nervously, Ethan felt something inside him finally break and rebuild. They talked for hours. About Grace. About life. About all the questions that had waited too long. When Ava reached across the table and took his hand, tears slipped down Ethan's face freely. I'm here now, he said. If you'll let me be. She nodded. That's all I wanted. If that moment hit you in the chest the way it hit his, leave a red heart in the comments. Sometimes one small symbol can carry a lifetime of feeling. As Ethan walked back to the park later that evening, the lights glowing warm around him, Lily ran up and hugged him again. You look different, she said. I feel different, Ethan replied. But beneath the hope, a final question loomed. One that would test whether redemption was truly possible. Because knowing the truth was only the beginning, and forgiveness was a mountain still waiting to be climbed. Ethan didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear, but because of possibility. Ava's face lingered behind his eyes every time he closed them, a living reminder of everything he had missed and everything he might still become. The next weeks unfolded slowly, carefully. Ethan didn't rush. He learned Ava's favorite coffee order, listened more than he spoke, let her set the pace. Sometimes they talked for hours. Sometimes they simply walked side by side, the silence filled with unspoken understanding. But one absence echoed louder than the rest. "Have you talked to her?" Michael asked one evening in the park, Lily chasing fireflies nearby. Ethan knew who he meant. "No," he admitted. "Grace's sister. She was there when Ava was born. She knows everything I don't." "And you're afraid," Michael said gently. Ethan nodded. "Of what she'll say. Of what I deserve to hear." Michael watched Lily laugh, light catching in her hair. "Forgiveness isn't about deserving," he said. "It's about courage." The words followed Ethan home. 2 days later, he stood outside a small house on a quiet street. Grace's sister's home. The porch light glowed soft yellow, familiar in a way that hurt. Ethan raised his hand and lowered it. His heart pounded like it wanted to escape his chest. Finally, he knocked. The door opened to a woman with tired eyes and Grace's sharp cheekbones. She stiffened the moment she saw him. "You've got a lot of nerve," she said flatly. "I know," Ethan replied. "I won't pretend otherwise." She crossed her arms. "Do you have any idea what she went through?" Ethan's voice cracked. "I'm starting to." They sat across from each other at a small kitchen table. Grace's sister, Hannah, didn't soften. She didn't need to. "She loved you," Hannah said, "even when she stopped believing you loved her back. She waited for you to notice something was wrong. You never did." Ethan closed his eyes, shame burning hot. "She didn't tell you about the pregnancy because she was tired of begging," Hannah continued. "Tired of being second place." "I would have stayed," Ethan said, barely audible. Hannah's eyes filled with tears. "That's what makes this hurt worse." Silence stretched between them, heavy but honest. "I can't change what I did," Ethan said, "but I'm here now. For Ava. And if there's any part of you that can forgive me." Hannah looked away, jaw trembling. Minutes passed. Then quietly she said, "I don't forgive you." "Not yet." Ethan nodded. "That's fair. But," she added, "I see the way Ava looks at you, and I know Grace would want that light protected. So don't disappear again." "I won't," Ethan promised. On the walk back, Ethan felt both lighter and heavier, the strange weight of accountability. That evening, in the park, he told Michael everything. Lily listened too, sitting unusually still. "Do you think she'll forgive him?" Lily asked Michael. Michael smiled softly. "Forgiveness takes time." Lily turned to Ethan. "I think you're trying really hard." The words landed like a gift. "Be honest with yourself for a moment. If you were in his place, knowing how deeply you hurt someone, could you forgive yourself enough to keep going? Type forgive if you could, or never if it would be too heavy to carry." The days after that brought quiet healing. Ava invited Ethan to her graduation. He attended without cameras, without announcements, just a father learning how to stand in the background and still matter. One afternoon, Lily tugged on Ethan's sleeve. "My dad says you smile more now." Ethan chuckled. He's probably right. But healing, Ethan learned, wasn't a straight line. Because just when he began to believe he could build something new, life tested him once more in a way he never expected. The call came late. Hospital lights. Lily's name. And suddenly, the borrowed father was the one who needed saving. The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and sleepless nights. Ethan paced back and forth beneath flickering fluorescent lights, his phone clenched so tightly his knuckles ached. Michael stood a few steps away, shoulders sagging, eyes fixed on the closed double doors at the end of the hall. Lily had collapsed at school. No one said the word serious out loud, but it hung in the air like a storm cloud. Ethan had arrived faster than he thought possible. Meetings canceled without explanation, traffic ignored, his driver nearly running red lights. None of it mattered now. Only the girl with the uneven pigtails and the fearless kindness. A doctor finally emerged. "She's stable," he said. But we need to run more tests. Michael exhaled a shaky breath and sank into a chair, burying his face in his hands. Ethan hesitated, then sat beside him. "This is my fault," Michael whispered. "I should have noticed something was wrong." Ethan placed a hand on his shoulder. "You didn't fail her," he said firmly. "You love her. That's not nothing." They waited through the night. Machines hummed softly beyond the walls. Time stretched then. At dawn, Lily stirred. Ethan was there when her eyes fluttered open. "Hey, borrow Dad," she murmured weakly. Ethan laughed through tears. "You scared us." She frowned. "Did I?" Michael rushed to her side, gripping her hand like he might lose it if he let go. "You're okay," he said, voice breaking. Later that morning, the doctor returned, this time with answers. "It's a heart condition," he explained gently. "Congenital. Manageable, but she'll need treatment. Possibly surgery down the line." The words hit like a blow. Michael nodded slowly, absorbing each syllable. Ethan felt something else rising beneath the fear, resolve. Outside the room, Ethan made a call. "I want the best pediatric cardiologist in the country," he said calmly. "Money is not a factor." Michael overheard and shook his head. "Ethan, you don't have to." "I know," Ethan replied, "but I want to." They argued quietly until Michael's voice cracked. "I can't lose her." Ethan's own chest tightened. "You won't," he said, with a certainty that surprised them both. Over the following weeks, Ethan became a constant presence. Hospital visits, rides to appointments, quiet conversations in waiting rooms. He never overstepped, never tried to replace Michael. He simply stayed. Ava visited once, standing in the doorway, watching Ethan read to Lily. Later, she pulled him aside. "You're good with her," she said. "I'm learning," Ethan replied. One evening, after a long day, they sat together in the park again. Lily rested on the bench between them, bundled in a blanket, her breath slow and steady. "Do you believe things happen for a reason?" Michael asked suddenly. Ethan thought of a lonely bench. A child's brave offer. A life redirected. "I didn't," he said, "but I'm starting to." If you believe love still find a way, even after loss, after mistakes, after fear, comment amen. Let's leave some light here for anyone walking through a dark moment tonight. The surgery date was set. Tension filled every day leading up to it. On the morning itself, Lily hugged Ethan tightly. "You'll wait for me, right?" she asked. "Right here," he promised. Hours passed like years. When the surgeon finally appeared, removing his mask with a tired smile, Ethan felt his knees weaken. "She did beautifully," the doctor said. Michael collapsed into Ethan's arms, sobbing openly. Ethan held him without hesitation, tears soaking into his shirt. In that moment, Ethan understood something profound. Family wasn't just blood or titles or roles. It was presence. It was choice. As Lily recovered, something else shifted too. Ethan began to see his life not as a series of failures, but as a long road finally turning toward purpose. Yet one final step remained. One truth left to face. Because redemption, if it was real, demanded more than money or effort. It demanded a public choice and a quiet sacrifice. The press conference room was packed. Cameras, microphones, murmurs of expectation. Ethan stood just off stage, listening to his name echo through the space and fragments. CO, visionary, powerhouse. None of the titles mattered to him anymore. What mattered was a folded piece of paper in his hand. Michael had asked him that morning, standing beside Lily's hospital bed. "You don't owe us anything," he'd said quietly. "You've already given more than enough." Ethan had smiled, brushing Lily's hair back gently. "This isn't about owing," he replied. "It's about choosing." Now he stepped forward. Flashes erupted. The room fell silent. Ethan adjusted the microphone, took a breath, and spoke, not as a CEO, but as a man finally honest with himself. "For years," he began, "I believed success was measured by growth charts and market share. I was wrong." A ripple of confusion passed through the crowd. "There are people who build lives quietly," Ethan continued. "They heal others while carrying their own pain. They raise children with love, even when the world is unfair. and they do it without recognition. Michael watched from a small screen in Lily's room, heart pounding. I'm restructuring our company's foundation, Ethan said. We're redirecting resources not as charity, but as commitment toward pediatric health care, mental health counseling, and community support programs. Permanently. The room erupted in whispers. And personally, Ethan added, voice steady, I'm stepping down as CEO. Gasps filled the air. I'll remain involved, he said, but I will no longer lead from the top. Because leadership doesn't mean being above others. It means standing beside them. Later that day, away from cameras and noise, Ethan returned to park. The bench was empty, bathed in late afternoon light. He sat there, alone, but not lonely. Michael approached with Lily, walking carefully now but smiling brighter than ever. You did it, Michael said. Ethan nodded. I needed to. Lily climbed onto the bench between them. Does this mean you'll have more time now? Yes, Ethan said softly. For the things that matter. She beamed. Good. Ava joined them moments later, holding 2 coffees. She handed one to Ethan. I saw the news, she said. Mom would have been proud. Ethan swallowed hard. I hope so. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in gold and amber. For a moment, no one spoke. Hope settled quietly, not loud, not dramatic, but real. If this journey has made you believe, even just a little, that people can change, that broken paths can still lead somewhere beautiful, say amen in the comments. Let's remind each other that hope isn't foolish. It's necessary. Ethan leaned back, listening to Lily laugh as she told Ava's story only she could tell. He thought of all the benches he'd sat on alone before this one, all the moments he'd missed. But life had given him another chance, not to erase the past, but to honor it by living differently. The light faded. The park grew quiet. And as Ethan looked at the small family forming around him, he knew the final truth of his journey wasn't about success or sacrifice at all. It was about staying kind, even after the world teaches you how easy it is not to be. The park looked different in early spring. New leaves clung to branches like quiet promises, and the air carried the soft hum of beginnings. Ethan arrived before the others that evening, sitting on the same bench where everything at first unraveled and slowly stitched itself back together. He traced the wood grain with his fingers, remembering the man he'd been that day. Shoulders heavy, eyes hollow, a stranger to his own heart. Footsteps approached. Michael came first, carrying a small paper bag. Lily followed, walking carefully but confidently now, her steps no longer fragile. Ava trailed behind them, smiling in that gentle way that always reminded Ethan of grace. You're early, Michael said. Ethan smiled, didn't want to miss a second. They sat together, close but unforced. Lily pulled something from the bag, pancakes, star-shaped, slightly uneven. I made them with Dad, she announced proudly. For you? Ethan laughed softly, accepting one like it was the most valuable thing he'd ever been given. They're perfect. As they ate, the sky shifted colors, slow and patient. No rush, no deadlines. Ava watched Ethan quietly, then spoke. I used to think forgiveness was pretending nothing hurt, she said. But I've learned it's choosing to move forward anyway. Ethan nodded. I used to think redemption meant fixing everything. Now I know it just means not running anymore. Michael leaned back, hands folded. Lily asked me something yesterday, he said. Lily looked up, curious. I did. Michael smiled. You asked if people can change for real, or they just say they will. All eyes turned to Ethan. He thought carefully before answering. People can change, he said, but only when they stop protecting who they were and start protecting who they're becoming. Lily considered this, then nodded, satisfied. The evening stretched gently. Laughter came easily. Silence, when it arrived, felt warm instead of empty. As the streetlights flickered on, Ethan felt something settle deep inside him. Not excitement, not relief, but peace. The kind that didn't demand anything more. He stood slowly. I want to say something, he said. They looked up. I don't know what the future holds, Ethan continued. But I know this. Meeting you changed my life. Not because you saved me, but because you reminded me how to be human. Michael rose too, extending his hand. Ethan shook it, firmly, gratefully. Lily hugged Ethan next, squeezing tight. You don't need to borrow my dad anymore, she said. Ethan smiled through the ache in his chest. I know, but I'm glad I did. As they began to walk away, Ethan lingered for a moment, glancing back at the bench, the place where a little girl had offered kindness without conditions, where a lonely man had been seen. If the story touched you, truly touched you, don't scroll past quietly. Tap like, not for me, but for the child who believed a stranger deserved comfort, and for the man who learned how to receive it. One small click can be your way of saying, I felt this too. And sometimes, that's how healing spreads. Ethan caught up with them, the four of them moving forward together, not as something to find, but as something real. And the moral, simple and steady, followed him like a heartbeat. You don't have to be perfect to be kind. You don't have to be whole to help someone else heal. Sometimes, the smallest voice, often the simplest love, is enough to change a life forever. The park faded behind them, but the warmth stayed.